Hi, folks. Old man Grognard here. I want to do something, I don't know, a little different, maybe a little familiar. I want to talk about the process I go through in creating a campaign world. I had my other world, Earth, and actually, I want to talk about some of the influences that I came up with for these worlds. I had my world Earth, but before that, way a long time ago when I was running second edition, I came up with a world called, I probably showed you this before, but the world called Sky, Skye. Now, if you notice, I work small. That's because I like to fit my maps on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And so I tend to get, this is true of my artworks, if I'm not watching myself, I get kind of cramped. So I've got a lot crammed onto this page. What I needed was just a campaign world for my players to tromp around in that I didn't want to use anything published. So what I did was basically come up, as usual, this is hand drawn by the way, of a coastline. I just went, there's a coastline, added a few islands, things like that. Then I added the flora and fauna, mountain ranges here, forests, rivers, etc., 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 etc. Then I came up with, I had an idea of I wanted it to be 3 nations with a bunch of city-states that are either aligned with them or not aligned, something like that. And I came up here with cliffs, things like that, someplace where the doors can go. So I came up with these 2 nations, Canis, Selenia, and Zardoon. Now, I wanted to make, of course, one, the good guy nation where all the where the PCs come from, things like that, and one kind of the bad guy nation, kind of like Fort Doom or Zental Keep or something, something like that. But the third one, I didn't know what to do. If you notice, Zardoon is kind of a little broken up here, so I'm assuming they got more up here, but I only dealt with this part of it, and this is a big old lake. It's got a couple islands in it. And I was going, what do I want to do? So I make one good guy, one bad guy. And I came up with a rough history of this. And let me tell you, when you're coming up with the history of a country or a world or something like that, be careful with the names, because I had the backstory about 3 brothers, or rather 2 brothers and an uncle. And well, unfortunately, I named the good brother who took over as ruler of that land, Andre, but I named his evil uncle Arne. So when I was writing, it was constantly, okay, Arne did this to Andre. Andre to I can't Arne. I can't keep track of it. So be careful with the names. I came up with a lot of nice cities here. Places for the elves, places for the dwarves, some hobbit areas, things like that, and other things. But Zardoon I didn't know what to do with. It's like I was going to make it a big question mark. You never know who they're going to side with. You know what I mean? Maybe, I don't know, with a selfish leader or something like that. Um, and then I saw The Third Man, the movie. Um, if you like film noir, you should watch it. It's a Oliver Reed film, probably infamous. But it takes place in Vienna after the war. And I looked at that film, and I looked at all the architecture and the bombed out architecture from the war. People living in half demolished houses because they had to, that kind of thing. And there's piles of rubble everywhere amongst all these beautiful, beautiful statues and just architecture. It's absolutely blows your mind. It's gorgeous. And I thought, yeah, that's what I want from Zardoon. They look like they've just recovered from a war. So you've got rubble, you've got architecture there. And of course the film, a big part of it was the black market for things after the war. And so I gave it a black market. And I had all sorts of plot hooks in there, kidnappings, and it was kidnappings, intrigue, things like that. I mean, you had your share of dungeons in this place. You can go underground and have grand adventure, but you can also get into a little of the cloak and dagger stuff. I don't want to get too much into Machiavellian stuff, things like that. But I'm really thinking of like reviving this world as opposed to Earth, because Earth was kind of like tongue in cheek. This one's a little more serious. Yeah, me serious. But I'm thinking of maybe using this world now. And that's kind of the way I came up with these things. Some of the names, the Bearded Mountains, the Demon's Door, I just made up. Some of them were like from one of those name generating programs. And some of them, I just like the sound of it. I came up with Caer-Dune. Caer-Dune is a city the elves built for everyone. And I just like the name Caer-Dune. It just sounds right. A little bit Scottish, things like that. And also, I'm not afraid to incorporate stuff from other sources. This here, right here, see a little dot there? That is a caldera called Licherax. Now, if you know the Mayfair supplement, you may or may not know it. There's a Mayfair supplement out there called Undead. It's out of print like everything else, but it outlined a caldera that was basically the land of the dead and where all the undead came from. So I said, great, I'm going to plunk that somewhere in my world. I plunked it near the sea, this sea here, and this little country here, Opak, near it, and there's a lake called the Maiden. Now, and I came up with a great backstory on that, where these other towns, they could be threatened by the undead coming out because they're always trying to go out and, conquer the living and all that kind of stuff. But Opak keeps them in check because Opak is the center of knowledge in this world and the center of worship. All the major religions and pantheons have all of them have their headquarters, their main temples in Opak. Not only that, but the Maiden here is the repository of a somewhat dubious boon. Hundreds of years ago, a mighty dragon, I haven't decided which color, probably a bronze dragon, met its end at the Maiden. I was going to make it a red dragon. And, adventurers took it down and it sank into the Maiden. They recovered some of the parts, but they never recovered the dragon's heart. And the heart got lodged in, you see where the river comes, the tributary of the Canis River comes, and the heart lodged at the entrance to that lake. And what it did was gave that lake healing powers. Practically all the healing potions from this world, from this area, come from that lake. And the pantheon, the priests know it and things like that. That's why it's such a religious and knowledge center here. The nobles send their kids to get educated here. The great magic universities are here. And that, the Maiden plus Opak keeps Licherax in check, more or less. They cannot get past that to go west. The undead can't get past it to go west in that way anyway. So this area is kind of safe, but you still got enough stuff with plot hooks to have some adventures around there. And that's just one of the little things I came up with. I'm thinking of moving my cattle drive series of adventures in this area. Anyway, I just wanted to give you some ideas on how I came up with the world, so you can come up with ideas too. If you got ideas, if you want to tell me about your world, go ahead, oldmangrognard@gmail.com. I'm always open, always listening to read your emails and probably answer them here on the air, or on this video actually. But until next time, bye-bye.